First, on yesterday's violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo, news reports indicate that Rwanda-backed M23 rebels seized a key town in the east. This is a major escalation, and it comes just days after President Trump hosted the Rwandan and Congolese presidents to tout a plan for peace and prosperity. Videos show civilians fleeing gunfire and reports of refugees streaming over the border into Burundi. This is exactly what the agreement was meant to prevent. It would appear that the Rwandan government gave President Trump promises that the government was not willing to deliver on. Senator Risch and I put out a statement on that peace signing, and what we said in our statement was that the U.S. would act if the parties don't uphold their commitments. I look forward to working with members of this subcommittee to take those necessary steps and encourage the administration to also uphold the commitments that were made. Second, I want to reiterate the importance of U.S. support for the Somali government, the Somali people, and the Somali American community. Senator Booker addressed the comments that the President made earlier in his comments, but at a moment when cooperation with Somalia is essential to counter piracy and strengthen security off its coasts, it's important to reaffirm that partnership. Our policy should be grounded in facts and in the strength of our alliances, not in comments that undercut communities who are critical to that work. Mr. Sylvester, thank you. Thank you to all our witnesses for being here. In November, Senator Barrasso and I introduced bipartisan legislation to ensure a whole-of-government strategy on subsea cables for the Department of State, to ensure that you have the requisite expertise you need to lead international coordination on the subject. Now, you may know, Mr. Sylvester, that New Hampshire is home to SubCom. It's one of the world's biggest developers of undersea cables. So can you talk a little bit about the role that the State Department can play in supporting American companies like SubCom as they work to compete against the PRC firms and win bids to lay cables across the world, and also to help protect those cables?
Absolutely, Senator. Thank you for the question. I've actually met with SubCom personally and was extremely impressed with the breadth of what they do and really the history behind the company. So appreciate that, that shout out for them. So what we're doing on the topic of subsea cables is twofold. Number one, trying to ensure that countries go with trusted vendors for subsea cables rather than the Chinese alternatives. So a couple of programs that went specifically to that. So in the East Asia Pacific Bureau, there's a program called the Cables Program. When that program started, there was an 18% market share for what's now called HMN Tech in the region, in EAP. After a few years, that market share is now down to 7%. That program really was just an educational program about the data security risks of going with untrusted subsea cable vendors, and we already saw tremendous results to the point where the Cyberspace and Digital Policy Bureau is now taking that program global, a program called PROCON. PROCON. So that's one thing, is encouraging that education. The second thing is continuing diplomacy to encourage partners to adopt the New York principles. So this was an agreement on not just education, but also building out a resilient system. So while some cuts or some damage to subsea cables may be inevitable because of ships sinking or accidental anchor drags, this program, or these principles, encourage countries to sign on to building a resilient system so there aren't those choke points where one cut can be catastrophic to the global and the digital economy. So those would be two examples. I'll just say, as far as the risks, so where we've seen Chinese dominance in the South China Sea, there have been incidents where there's interference with the maintenance and repair of subsea cables. And we're obviously concerned that if that influence were to spread to a place like Africa or the Gulf of Guinea, where there are a lot of connections to land, that similar incidents could occur. So certainly is a top priority for the department, Senator.
Well, thank you. I applaud the government of Finland for the work that they've done to address Russian deliberately cutting of undersea cables. I think we need to encourage more countries to take that action.